Imagine a woman so cruel that she did not hesitate to kill her own grandchildren to secure power. A queen determined to destroy everything that represented faith in God, going so far as to desecrate the sacred temple. This is the story of Athalia, the only woman to reign in Judah, a figure marked by an insatiable thirst for power and the wickedness inherited from her mother, Jezebel. What led Athalia to commit such terrible acts? How did she attempt to end David's lineage, defy divine promises, and eliminate the descendants who could threaten her reign? In this video, you will discover how God acted in a surprising way to save the promise made to David and bring peace to a corrupted nation. So stay until the end of this video, as this narrative will reveal the dark secrets of a relentless and very cruel queen and the rebirth of faith under the leadership of a young king. Athalia, daughter of Jezebel, followed in her mother's cruel footsteps and became an equally evil figure. Her cruelty was so great that she went so far as to kill almost all of her own grandchildren and showed no respect for the house of God. After a prophecy by Elijah, her parents Ahab and Jezebel met a tragic end. Ahab died in a battle against the Syrians, and Jezebel was thrown from a window. Athalia, whose name means afflicted by God, stood out as the only woman to rule Judah and occupy the throne of David. She married Jehoram, the eldest son of Jehoshaphat, at 32 years old. Jehoram became king of Judah, and for the first 4 years he ruled alongside his father. However, he did not follow the righteous and godly ways of Jehoshaphat, his father. After marrying Athalia, Jehoram ended up becoming a tyrannical king. Later, his son Ahaziah was crowned king at 22 years old with the support of his mother Athalia, who had a very wicked nature. The bad examples of his father and the counsel of Athalia led him to follow evil paths, as mentioned in 2 Chronicles chapter 22, verse 3. Ahaziah also followed the practices of the house of Ahab, influenced by his mother, who encouraged him to do evil. His reign was short, lasting only 1 year, until he was assassinated. When Athalia discovered the death of her son, instead of being saddened, she seized the opportunity to take power and ordered the killing of Ahaziah's children, who were also her grandchildren. To maintain power, Athalia managed to eliminate almost the entire royal family and become queen. However, she did not know that one of her grandchildren had survived. According to the book of 2 Kings chapter 11, verses 1 and 3, Jehosheba, who was Ahaziah's half-sister, saved Joash, the son of Ahaziah, by hiding him in a room out of Athaliah's reach. The boy was hidden in the Lord's temple for 6 years while Athaliah ruled the kingdom. After the death of her son, Athaliah took advantage of the situation to further consolidate her power and take absolute control. The insatiable thirst for power is something very dangerous, as it can corrupt even family ties, causing parents, siblings, and children to become cruel. Jehosheba, the aunt of the children who were marked to be killed, showed courage by entering the royal house and saving Joash, playing an important role in God's plan. Although evil people like Athalia may act, God always finds a way to raise someone to confront evil, and in the end, evil will not prevail. Joash, much like the young Samuel, grew up in the temple and probably helped the priests without drawing attention. God had promised David that his descendants would endure forever, symbolized by a lamp that should remain always lit. Even with Ahaziah's evil actions and wrong alliances, he was still part of David's lineage, and God protected this lineage from the destruction that Athalia had planned. Athalia's cruelty almost wiped out the royal family, but in a miraculous way, God's promise to David was upheld. Athalia, born into a family of kings, carried the heritage of power in her blood. She was the daughter of a king, Ahab, the wife of another king, Jehoram, and the mother of another king, Ahaziah, thus continuing a line of authority that, for many, was synonymous with honor and responsibility. However, Athaliah's heart was deeply corrupted by the evil influence of her mother, Jezebel, who had also demonstrated unbridled ambition and ruthless coldness in her quest for power. Contrary to what was expected from someone in her position, Athalia did not hesitate to act with extreme brutality against her own family. Her actions revealed a woman driven by selfish desires who placed her ambitions above family ties. The power she so desperately craved became an obsession, and the only way Athalia saw to achieve and maintain control was by eliminating any threat, even if it meant shedding the blood of her own grandchildren. However, Joash, as if rescued from the fire, managed to survive. He was hidden in one of the chambers of the temple, a place Athalia rarely visited, and he remained under the protection of Jehoiada, the high priest. There, Joash was under divine care, just as Moses had been. Joash was protected by God and remained hidden until the right moment. God protected Joash to ensure that the royal lineage would continue, despite Athaliah's attempts to eliminate him. Athaliah's actions had a profound impact. She tried to destroy the royal dynasty that in the future would bring the Messiah. Joash and his nurse were hidden in a room of the temple, and he did not leave there during all that time. In the 6 years that Athalia ruled Judah, she became deeply involved with other temples, promoting idolatry. Athalia used her power to increase the worship of Baal throughout the kingdom. She placed priests and built altars for these idols, even inside the very temple of the Lord. As written in 2 Chronicles chapter 24, verse 7, Athaliah's followers, who were described as wicked people, invaded the house of God and dedicated all the sacred objects to the worship of Baal. Her mother Jezebel had already started this kind of behavior, and Athalia merely followed her example. Athaliah's reign, marked by fear and violence, lasted 6 years. Although we don't know all the details of her government, it is evident that she continued with the same methods from the beginning. While Jehu attempted to end Baal worship in Israel, Athalia strengthened her influence in Judah. As mentioned in 2 Chronicles chapter 24, verse 7, due to her connection with Ahab's family, both the court and the kingdom of Judah were corrupted during this period. Joash, who had the right to take the throne, was kept hidden and protected by Jehoiada, who was probably the high priest or at least the main religious leader of the time. Thus, Jehoiada, the high priest, had a clear and firm purpose: to restore David's throne to its rightful lineage and put an end to Athaliah's corrupt reign, a descendant of Ahab and Jezebel who had usurped the throne. He knew that David's lineage was crucial for the fulfillment of God's promises, and for that reason he was willing to risk everything to ensure the throne returned to its true heir. With great care, Jehoiada organized a strategic plan. He knew that the temple was the place where the ancient spears and shields of King David were kept, symbols of a kingdom blessed by God. These items, kept with reverence, represented the divine heritage and the power that once protected the people of Israel. Jehoiada ordered that these shields and spears be given to the loyal guards, who understood the importance and honor of carrying them. They were not just physical weapons, but also spiritual ones, representing the restoration of justice. The guards, now armed and ready, took their positions around the young Joash, the rightful heir to the throne, who was about to be crowned. They positioned themselves strategically around the temple, protecting the sacred altar where the king would be anointed. On one side and the other, they guarded the entrance of the sanctuary, ensuring that no enemy could approach. The presence of the guards with David's weapons, on the right and the left of the temple, symbolized the restoration of divine authority and the protection that God offered to his people at that critical moment. This scene of preparation was not merely a matter of security, but an act of great spiritual significance. Jehoiada was determined to follow God's plan, and the guards, ready to defend Joash's life and the future of Judah, awaited the moment of great restoration. Then, in a solemn and meaningful moment, they brought the young son of the king, Joash, to the center of the temple. The hearts of all those present were filled with expectation, for they knew they were about to witness the return of David's lineage to the throne. With great reverence, they placed the royal crown on his head, symbolizing his authority and the restoration of the legitimate reign in Judah. This moment marked not only Joash's coronation, but also the fulfillment of God's promise to keep David's lineage alive, even in the face of Athaliah's cruel attempts to eliminate it. In addition to the crown, they gave him a symbolic object, a weight, which represented the responsibility and wisdom he was to carry as king. This weight also suggested that Joash should remain in the temple, protected and prepared to govern with joy and justice, always guided by the word of God. Those present at the moment expressed their blessings and wishes for the young king's success, calling for Joash's prosperity and well-being. It was an act of recognition of his divine authority, something that brought hope to the people. The announcement of Joash as king was met with joy and celebration, for it was not only the rise of a new ruler but also the beginning of a new spiritual era for the people of Judah. The temple, which had been desecrated under Athaliah's reign, would now be restored to its sacred function under the leadership of a king faithful to God. Jehoiada, the high priest, was the great mastermind behind this plan, guiding the process with great integrity and courage. He knew that the presence of a God-fearing king was crucial for the revival of true worship and for the healing of the nation. During the 6 years that Athalia ruled unopposed, many people continued to live under the negative influences of her tyranny, unaware that the rightful heir was being prepared to take the throne. The worship of Baal had spread, and the people were lost, seeking direction. However, the arrival of Joash, the king's son, brought a message of renewal and hope. He was the bearer of God's word, the living proof that divine promises never fail. Thus, Joash's coronation was not merely a political event, but also a spiritual milestone for the people. The temple, which had been the place of his protection and refuge, would now become the center of a new era of faith and obedience to God. Joash's leadership, guided by Jehoiada, would restore true worship to the Lord and renew the people's trust in his eternal promises. When Athalia heard the noise of the guards and the people, she entered the temple, where everyone was gathered. Looking around, she saw the young king standing beside the pulpit, as was customary in such ceremonies. Desperate, Athalia tore her clothes and shouted, "Treason! Treason!" At that moment, the priest Jehoiada ordered the guards to take her outside and warned that anyone who followed her would be killed by the sword, making it clear that she should not be executed inside the temple. The guards arrested her and led her through the horse gate of the royal palace, where Athalia was executed. Then, the priest Jehoiada, acting with wisdom and reverence, established a solemn covenant between the Lord, the young King Joash, and the faithful people of Judah. This covenant was not just an ordinary agreement, but a sacred commitment that reaffirmed the people's alliance with God, promising unwavering faithfulness and devotion. By establishing this new covenant, Jehoiada was restoring the spiritual relationship that had been corrupted during Athaliah's reign, bringing the people back to the path of true worship. The impact of this covenant was immediate and profound. Inspired by this spiritual renewal, the people, filled with fervor and determination, went to the temple of Baal, the ultimate symbol of idolatry that had contaminated their faith. Moved by the new covenant, they began to tear down everything they found, destroying altars and idols dedicated to the false god Baal. This act represented a complete rejection of idolatry and a sincere return to the worship of the one true God. Each blow against the idols was a step toward freeing the people's hearts from centuries of pagan influence. A sense of liberation and relief swept over the crowd. The air was filled with celebration, as if a weight had been lifted from the shoulders of every person present. There were songs of praise, prayers, and shouts of joy. The entire city experienced a deep and invigorating peace, a tranquility that could only come from reconciliation with God and the turning away from evil. The people of Judah, who had lived for so long under the shadow of fear and oppression, now walked in a new era of hope and faith. Joash, who was only 7 years old when he took the throne, began to rule with the help of Jehoiada and ushered in a new era of justice and faithfulness to the Lord. His rise to power was not merely a change of leaders, but a powerful lesson about the dangers of greed and envy. The story of Athalia and her downfall is a clear reminder of how uncontrolled desire for power and betrayal lead to failure and suffering. Therefore, the story of Joash and the covenant with God teaches us that true power lies in living in peace and standing firm in divine teachings. It is a reminder that those who follow God's will are the ones who experience true prosperity and peace, while those who seek power at any cost inevitably face destruction. This narrative is more than just a historical account. It is a timeless lesson about the importance of maintaining our faith and rejecting the temptations that can lead us away from God. Now leave a comment if you already knew the story of Athalia, the wicked daughter of Jezebel. Give the video a like and subscribe to the channel so you don't miss future videos.